as admins so that they can help with the chat. And so let me just go through here. Give me just a couple of seconds to get started with that. Size.
I guess I don't have to do this one.
While I'm doing that, if you would just take a second and go into the chat so we can record who's on the call today, your name, and whether you're a commissioner or whether you're here for a unit. If you are here for a unit, just put in, Marcus Ragland, PAC 416, that kind of thing into the chat. That would be real helpful.
Where's the chat?
I'm trying to figure that out.
Bless you. Sarah just sneezed very quietly. Co-host, yes.
You don't even need mute, so please.
Hugh, I'm going to make you co-host as well, if that's all right. If you would help with questions in the chat. Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. First and foremost, I'm going to stop share for a second so you can see my ugly mug. Thank you all for taking the time. I promise to be good stewards of your time today. The topic we're going to cover is an important one, and I think it has the possibility or the ability to help us take units that really need help. This is probably the #1 issue that is facing our units and is a threat to the continued existence to our units. It's a lack of volunteer engagement. So we're going to talk about it from a couple of different angles. Everything we're going to talk about are actual practical things that can be done to help overcome the challenges. And the good news is these things work. So we're not going to spend a lot of time in theory. We're going to spend a lot of time in practical things that can be deployed immediately, no matter where the unit is. So let's bear in mind that we have units that are in dire need of help. They've got like 4 people who are doing, that are registered on the charter, and it's really 2 that are doing everything. Those are the ones that need immediate intervention. But we also have units that are doing okay today. They're doing even well today, but they have a material challenge in that it's just a handful of people doing things, and they do not have a succession plan or a culture of engagement of parents. So we will talk about that. No matter where they're at, there'll be practical resources to help our units go from good to great, or to go from needing help to good and solid ground and on the way to great. So with that said, I do want to acknowledge that, and this is right out of the gates, we have to understand that people volunteer for engagement with the Boy Scouts of America for different reasons. And what motivated you to engage not only could be different, it's likely different from what makes other people engage. So so we can kind of wrap our heads around that a little bit better. I'd ask, do we have anybody who will volunteer to explain what it is about Boy Scouts of America that they like, that they find value in, that made them want to go ahead and fill out an application, do background checks, take that pesky YPT every 2 years? What is it that keeps you coming back, and what is it that made you join in the first place? Do we have a volunteer that'd be willing to share that? All right, Lou, are you on mute? I can't see there.
Unmuted. Why did I volunteer? I got to ask. To do something, do a task. And that's the key thing. You get hooked when you do a task. And then you do that task and you help out. You recommend, thank you for doing that. That was really helpful. And it went to the next task. Went to the next task, went to a position, went to another position, and it just kind of snowballed.
Absolutely, that's great.
You grow your engagement. That's the thing you need to do. You grow the engagement, plant the seed with the task. Perfect.
We're going to talk about that, how to do that today. Anybody else that wants to share why they take the time to do this?
I guess I can share it. So
I've been involved with Scouts since I was like 6. I earned my Eagle Scout. It was life-changing for me, gave me a lot of opportunities over the year. So that's why I still volunteer. But like, I know I'm in the minority of like the general, with then new volunteers.
Very good. Thanks for sharing, Casey.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Anybody have practical reason, for example?
I volunteered because my kids were interested. And once I started getting into working with the kids and especially environmental education, it really kind of stuck with me. So I continue even though my kids are no longer involved.
Thank you, Monica. I appreciate you sharing that. And that's a great example of, there's something about this program that resonated with Monica that's different, that makes Boy Scouts of America and the program that her kids were going to get attractively distinct from other programs that made it worthwhile for her that may not apply to you or may not apply to another parent. So any others? There are enough reasons that everybody's are kind of.
I was a scout, and I was involved in the scout, and it was enjoyed the program and just stayed on as an adult.
Perfect. Thanks, Herb. Any others?
Lisa and Mike Landy here. We originally got involved because we went to the school pack the, orientation night, and we were all the adults were put in a separate room from the kids, and adults stood up front and basically said, well,
have a great
we need
weekend.
leaders. And I looked at my husband and said, well, we're signing up 2 kids. If we don't do this, how can we expect anyone else to do this?
Yeah. So you responded to somebody just saying, hey, we need leaders. Well, that's perfect.
Yes.
Yeah. So as I'll point out, thank you for sharing that, Lisa and Mike. As I'll point out, that does work. But generationally, it is something that is working less and less. And so we have to kind of, expand our bag of tricks and tools. So any others that you want to share? Yeah, Dave.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I'm a little bit late. Maybe this has already been stated, but when I stepped up to be a scoutmaster or even assistant scoutmaster, it was really important to know what I was facing. And a lot of people who were being approached didn't get the sense, they always said, well, if I want to do this, I'm going to do it right. And then if I can't be completely available all the time, then I'm not going to sign up. Right. And that was one of the things that I faced. But I think, whether you're an assistant scoutmaster, a troop or whatever, troop committee, whatever, whoever signs up needs to hear that they're all behind you in word and deed. So they've got to be behind you by creating or at least providing the support. So when I first stepped up as scoutmaster, there were really not much of a active leadership. Everybody was kind of looking at each other and nothing was getting done. And I just said, look, I need the equivalent of a COO, somebody who can help me run the meetings while I'm meeting with parents or kids or whatever during a troop meeting, for instance, being really basic, but also understanding that there was a structure in place around me and that I had the full support of troop committee. And I mean, everybody's in. You can't just say, well, that's not my job. You've got to have a lot of not just verbal support, but actual support for specific aspects, advancement, campouts, other events, troop meetings. And while you lean on your SPL and your junior staff and all that, that's critical that it's boy or kid run. You've got to make sure that these leaders step in knowing that they are not just all in themselves, that there is actual support behind them. Or, my troop was ready. It was just about to fade away. And this is a troop that was founded in 1924. So I'm like, not just don't I want to see this happen, but I'm not going to step up and do it all myself.
Exactly. And that is, we'll talk about generationally, how that is a challenge that we face, but you're exactly right. We will get into creating a culture of engagement so that everybody, the old adage, many hands make light work. So thanks for sharing, Dave.
Sure.
All right, before we jump in, anybody else want to share anything that's unique that drew them in to be a leader? I guess I'll share. I have worked for the Boy Scouts for this upcoming fall will be 22 years. But I've been volunteer leader for 6 years now as a den leader. And when my daughter wanted to join, I gave her the option. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do Girl Scouts? We weren't forcing her, and she's been dragged along to Cub Scout things with me since she was knee high to a grasshopper. She said, I want to be a Cub Scout. And I said, that's great. So we found a pack that was open to having girls involved, but they didn't have any girls involved. And guess what they said? They said, that's great. We'd love to have your daughter engaged in part of the pack. We don't have any leaders. Would you be willing to be a den leader? Just asked me. And it would be really bad of me as somebody who has asked people to volunteer that precious time each week to make this program happen to say, no, I'm too busy, So I said, with eyes wide open, yes, I'm fully committed. I'm going to do this. And it's been like the best part of my week each week is being a den leader. And I mean that sincerely. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and jump into the presentation. And I appreciate you guys sharing because that's really what it's all about. It's understanding that people do this for different reasons. We will go ahead and launch in. I'm going to do this. Here's what we're going to cover today. There are right ways and wrong ways to recruit volunteers, and we will go over the wrong ways and why they don't work. We will talk about strategies that are proven that do absolutely work in getting those parents from the back of the room on their phones into engaged positions, whether they're going to be a registered full-time leader or whether they're just going to be somebody that helps support the Blue and Gold banquet or they help support fundraisers. We need those people too, even though they're not necessarily going to be an assistant scoutmaster or a committee member. We'll talk about, as Dave pointed out, establishing a culture of engagement with our parents. We will talk about specific strategies that are proven to work, and how to actually, we'll get a little bit down in the weeds on how to make them work and like the things to do to ensure their success. We will also talk about the importance of the role of fun. If it is a chore, if it is a task, you're making it an unnecessary hill to climb to create that culture of engagement. So we'll go through that. We will talk about the importance of delegation. I mentioned generations and how different generations go about doing this differently. We'll talk about how to teach people from my generation, quite frankly, Gen X. We're the ones that cause all the problems. We'll talk about how to work with folks from Gen X to get them to actually delegate. Utilizing the commissioner. So many of the people on the call today are commissioners, and I especially want to thank you for taking your time out. All of the stuff that we're going to cover today is available. We're going to, like I said, we're recording this call. We'll make it available to you, also available to unit leaders. We'll put the link on the website, on Facebook, in smoke signals, and then also we'll have Q&A and discussion. So if you have questions, again, I would ask that you type them into the chat. Sarah Bednarowski, Council Commissioner, is generously sitting here next to me with her time, and she's covering those questions. She'll bring those to my attention as we go through the material. We want to make sure that every topic you see on this screen, that we are covering it and answering your questions as we go along. So don't hesitate. Don't wait until the end if you have questions, okay? All right. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about, how do we get parents? They're there. When we recruit new kids, the opportunity is there to bring those parents along with them. Whether we do that or not is up to us. We have a lot of units that have tried different things that don't seem to be working, and those parents are there, but they're absolutely not engaged. And you see on the left, this is what my generation typically does if they're bringing their kids to things. But we also know that there are units that have figured it out, and they look much more like the unit you see on the right there, where the parents are sitting there, they're engaged, they're having fun, and they're doing this and see value in it, like all the people on the call today. So we talked about why people volunteer, and there are some commonalities in all the answers that the people that shared gave to us. First and foremost, they see a need, and they want to help. Have you ever asked somebody, hey, I need you to take a position, and seen the reaction on their face? It's very different from if you ask them, hey, we have a situation, I wanted to see if I might get your help with it. That is kind of the root cause of a lot of our problems, is we haven't done a good job of training our volunteer leadership on just how to make the ask in the first place. So, you know, another thing that parents want to do is they want to spend time with their kids. Parents are busier today, I can speak from experience, than frankly they should be. And a lot of times the ones who suffer are their children. Their kids are being raised by their screens. And, you know, I think scouting in many ways can be an answer to that. Not just spending time with your kids, but spending time with your kids in a way that is going to directly benefit them and improve the relationship that the parents have with their children. I think that everybody wants to believe that they're having a positive impact on the world. You know, I personally look around and I see kind of the state of things. You know, we've got the media right now is, you know, I'm not getting political, but you see a lot more negative today than, you know, on a daily basis than I think you used to see. So again, engagement and scouting for a parent or an adult is a way that they can feel like they're maybe doing something about that, and it's rewarding for them. Also, you know, we see that our engagement nowadays tends to be more electronic and less in person for parents. And I think there's no coincidence that rates of depression are on the rise. People don't feel fulfilled. And I think part of it is because we're social animals, and finding people who have similar interests, care about their kids, like the same types of experiences, and just spending time with other people who think and act the way they do is a really good thing that can help not just the individuals, but our community in general. So there's one thing that is almost universal, and that is people who volunteer are asked personally and directly for their help. So again, we'll talk about how to do that and how not to do that. Are we good on questions? All right, we're going to keep rolling. I promise you, if we can get through the content and answer all the questions, we are not going to go until 3:30. So, but by the same token, please, if you have questions, you know, let's make sure and unpack all of that, because there's resources here for you. All right, first thing we said we'd talk about is what doesn't work. All right, and by and large, Lisa and Mike Landy being the exception, and thanks again for sharing, nowadays, people will not just volunteer and step forward because somebody stands up at the Blue and Gold banquet or the PAC meeting or a Court of Honor and says, hey guys, you know, this has been a great 4 years for us, but we're going to move up to the troop. Or, you know, as you know, my son or my daughter is now going off to college, and it's been great to be your leader, but it's time for somebody else to step up. Here's what you will hear in response to that. Crickets. It's not personal. It's not direct. It's just stating a need, and it will not work. Secondly, sending out an email to parents. It's a great statement of need, but it's not a personal ask, and it's not going to generate people who will volunteer and step forward unless they were already planning to do so. So I can't tell you how many times over the course of my career I've had unit leaders come to me and say, you know, we need help with volunteer recruitment. We've tried everything and we cannot get people to step up. And universally, when I dig in and I say, okay, well, let's talk about what you've tried so we don't, you know, recreate a strategy that hasn't worked. Every single time, what they told me is two things. Well, we made an announcement at the, you know, we keep making announcements and nobody's responding. And we even sent out an email. and just nobody's responding. And I'm here to tell you that I'm not surprised that that doesn't work, because it never has, and it never will. Like I said, if the people who are absolutely going to volunteer for anything their kids are going to do, they may respond to that, but they were going to come to you and see you anyway. So this is the key. And commissioners, I would encourage you, if you're talking to your units and they have told you, which I'll bet you, if you ask 100% of our units in Westmoreland-Fayette Council, if they have enough leaders, better than 95% of them will tell you, no, we don't have enough leadership. And so the key is, you got to follow up with that question of, okay, what are you doing to identify and select and recruit those folks? And you will find if they're in a unit that really needs help, this is probably the extent of their strategy. So what I will tell you is, I'm not saying don't do these things, don't make announcements, don't send out communications electronically. I'm saying don't only do those two things, okay? There's a difference between a warm body and a good prospect. So let's talk about, who makes a good prospect. A lot of times when I sit down with a unit and we talk about all the parents in their unit, and they say, well, we can't ask that person because they're really busy with work, and we can't ask this person. But all you're doing when you go through that is you're saying no for somebody. And I will tell you, if people who are already busy are asked, you will have better success in recruiting people than if you just ask the people who you've weeded through. Yeah, Lou, you got a question or a comment?
Just a comment. I mean, I love hearing that when they say, oh, they're going to be too busy with this, too busy with that. And I said, well, I understand that. I will tell you, though, that my entire time as a scoutmaster, I was traveling all over the world supporting power plants. And it would take me out during the best time for scout activities. And I managed to do it because I recruited good help. So you find somebody who can help you there, and then find help for them. You'll find it'll work for you.
That's right. It's the Dave Trout model. No person is an island. And if you've got a person who's busy, but they can take a role that they can be successful with, you can recruit 2 or 3 people to help. And I'll tell you, it is way easier to get somebody to help somebody in a position and make sure they're successful than it is to get that first person if you're asking them to do everything. So absolutely. So don't say no for anybody for any reason. The only time I would say no for somebody is if you know there's a reason why they're not going to pass a background check, or why they don't match up with the I'll say the values of the Scout Oath and Scout Law. And that's important as well. So, okay. Another good source that I find all too often we are just not taking advantage of is our chartered organization. Every pack, troop, crew, post has a chartered organization, which on paper, at least, is willing to support your operation. They care enough about your existence to sign off on the paperwork, to pay insurance fees. They believe in what you're trying to do. Now, some of them, we may have better relationships today than others, but I would say, that's as much our fault as leaders in the organization as it is theirs. When we have everything covered and we don't engage them in anything, we're on the path to a disengaged charter organization. So a great first step is reaching out to them and saying, hey, we don't have enough leadership, and you guys are kind enough to support us and provide us a place to meet and engage with us. We wanted to reach out first to you and see if you have anybody in your organization that has interest, experience, knowledge that might be able to help us. And I will tell you, if you do that, you will find oftentimes there are answers in the affirmative. Yes, let me reach out to our people. If you're sponsored by a church, there are people in that congregation that used to be involved. Maybe they're not going to step up and be the next Cub Master or Scout Master, but they're more than happy to join your committee and give you ideas and material support. And this just isn't done. This is low-hanging fruit. And a lot of those people have lots of experience and knowledge that'll help you avert, challenges and avoid landmines. Other people who are great resources, past leaders. I can tell you as a den leader for 6 years with my daughter's den, we're getting ready to move up into a scout troop. And, but, you know, I'm not leaving. I also have a son in the pack. And so I'm going to continue to support the operation of the Cub Scout pack as we start this new girl troop for my daughter and the other girls in the girl den that I'm the den leader for currently. So absolutely. And even when my son moves out of the pack, I'm absolutely, I have a vested interest in the success of that program because I'm at least going to be a leader in a scout troop for a while that's dependent on the success of that Cub Scout pack. So even just looking as far as, you know, if you're a Cub Scout pack, looking towards the troop, and they may not necessarily be registered leader in the Cub Scout pack anymore, but that doesn't mean they're not going to support the efforts that you're trying to do. One example is the troop that we tend to feed kids to in our Cub Scout pack. They're doing a bundt cake sale, and they reached out to us, and we're supporting their bundt cake sale. Same time, we do a big fundraiser each year where we're supporting, they're supporting our luminary sale for the holidays. So, building those relationships that are mutually beneficial is another thing where, it's just help. It's help to get things moving. Also, adults from outside the unit, again, if they're not going to be direct facing, if they're not going to be people that are going on campouts, you don't always, if they're not going to be like interacting with youth, especially, they don't necessarily have to be a registered leader. They can be somebody that just supports you. How many times do you guys reach out to you want to go see, do a field trip with your unit? You reach out to folks that are not going to be registered leaders, but they're willing to say, oh yeah, I'll come in and do a speech, or, oh yeah, you guys can come and visit us. That's help. That's actual help for program delivery for your program. Also, parents who have been in the program for some time and have not done anything. You talk about people who understand the value. If they're bringing their kid back year after year after year, they understand the value of what's going on. Now, don't just go to those people and say, hey, we need you to step up. Spark up a conversation with them and ask them, what is it about this program that your son or daughter enjoys? And get them sharing with you what they like about this. It might be that, my daughter was totally the shyest kid you ever met until she put on a uniform and started seeing other kids in the same uniform having fun. And now she's got a network of kids that she's just come out of her shell with. Or it may be that, my son or daughter is on the spectrum. And I'll tell you, the welcome that we've received here in Cub Scouting has restored our faith in our community because of how amazing everybody is in working with our child. So that's how to do it for parents that have been there for a while. Start with the question, what is it that your son or daughter or you as your family get as value out of this? They're going to tell you what to appeal to when you do ask them to step up. Also, parents of newly recruited youth, guess what? With these folks, they don't know any better. The expectation is when they show up that you're going to tell them what you need them to do. It's going to be writing a check. It's going to be going in a uniform. We also need you to step up and help in some way. And if you set that expectation from day one that parents all chip in some way, shape, or form to help make the program for the pack or troop or crew operate, they won't know any different, and they'll be glad to say, okay, yeah, what do you need me to do? And that's the easiest ask you're ever going to make. Many of you, and I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here, understand that today, especially in our communities, we have grandparents that are raising kids. And oftentimes these folks are doing it because they know that if they don't step in and help their grandchild, who they love dearly, is not going to get the type of youthful experience and development into adulthood that they want them to have. So they are already making an investment in their time. Many times they will answer in the affirmative, yes, they're willing to help. So don't say, oh, they're grandparents, I'm not going to ask them. Guess what? You're leaving some of the best volunteers on the table if you don't make that ask. Okay. All right. So I think before we talk about strategies that work in the individual asks, it's really important for us to talk about, like Dave Trout mentioned, that culture of engagement. So many times I've experienced a unit that is, they're worn out because they have too few people doing the work to run their program, and what they've tried hasn't worked, and they're just run down. And they don't believe that it's possible. But right down the street from that unit, drawing from the same families, from the same schools, same socioeconomic status, same community, is a unit that is thriving and has volunteers. So we have to acknowledge there's a different approach that's happening in the second unit than in the first unit. And that's really all the extent is. And the second unit has created a culture where parents expect that they're going to have to do something. Because they do that they engage in some way, and they become part of that group, that social network of parents that are all putting their energy into making this program good for all of their kids. They find commonalities with those other people. It is fun. It is engaging. They see those people when they go to the grocery store, and they talk, and they talk about the upcoming pancake breakfast that the unit's going to do as a fundraiser, or they talk about how much their kids love the last camping trip. And it's engagement between parents. They're part of a group. They have joined a community, and that's different in the unit where the parents are coming in and sitting in the back of the room and checking emails or playing a game. And I will tell you that the first model is sustainable. The second model is not. So, if you as a commissioner, for example, go and see that happening at your units, don't indict your units. We're there to help them, but ask them about it. Ask the question, what are you guys doing to help get that parent to feel like they're a part of the group, so that they're not, sitting there on their phone the entire time. And you may find that they don't have any idea how to do it. And that's why as commissioners, we're there to help, give them suggestions, ideas, even willingness to come and help make that ask. So one of the things that several of you, like Karen Lazar, I'm grateful for you joining the call today. Karen sat through a very similar presentation because we recorded that one. And I sat through, and Karen had great engagement. She's seen this, and Karen will remember, we offered, and the offer still stands, your district executive, myself, our council commissioner, and all of you as commissioners are willing and need to be willing to go directly to units and help them deploy these strategies. This isn't okay, we've told you how to do this, we're going to walk away now. This is the kind of thing that we need to teach them, and then we need to show them. So using that EDGE method from scouting, explain, demonstrate, guide, enable, we're willing to go and do this. And we've had intervention in Bushy Run District. We did have a couple of units that said, hey, can you help with this? And both of those units have flipped things. So what we're talking about here is they've created a culture of engagement because we stopped allowing people to feel like they could come and just drop their kids off, or come and just sit in the back of the room. We made it, they're going to be asked to do something. So, all right. So how do you go about creating a culture of engagement? Do we have any questions so far yet? Okay. First, and again, generationally, don't try and run the show by yourself. And I say generationally, I am Gen X. I was a latchkey kid. Both of my parents worked. And both of them were involved. Don't get me wrong. Both of my parents were involved in a lot of the things that I did. My dad was a scout leader, but I was expected to take care of myself when I got home from school. And when you do that young, there's a certain amount of self-authority, self-autonomy that happens. And our generation, you see it in the workplace, you see it everywhere. We're not the one to ask somebody, hey, can you do this for me? We're the one to figure out, to say, if I want something done right, I'm going to do it myself. And that is toxic for an organization like the Boy Scouts of America. I forget who it was that said, maybe it was Dave Trout, that said the unit was chartered in 1924. The reason that we have this continuity in this program is because generations of leaders have passed the torch to the next generation of leaders. And my generation has totally flipped the apple cart out because we're more inclined to do things ourselves than to ask other people to help. And if we as a district, a council, a unit don't acknowledge that and kind of break the cycle, it's what causes a lot of units to go down the spiral of fewer and fewer parents engaged, and eventually there are not enough to run and sustain the program. One great way to engage, and it's hard, we have to be willing to hear things that we might not want to hear, but ask for feedback from your parents. The more it's personal, if you send out a survey, that's good. That's better than not doing anything. But I would say the more personal you can make it, the better. What you'll find is the parents who are willing to take the time and say, hey, I prefer, I feel like, we need to improve communication, or I feel like, that our campouts maybe aren't at the right level. They're too hard for our younger kids. Those parents are paying attention to what's going on. They care. They've had this feeling, and they haven't said anything to you until you asked. So chances are they would make a really good leader if they were asked. So please ask them for feedback. The ones that are going to make good leaders are the ones that will raise their hand and tell you what their thoughts and feelings are. Include parents in your planning sessions. If the planning session is the unit key 3, so the Cub Master, the Scout Master, the committee chair, chartered organization rep, and that's it, gosh, you're missing the boat. If you open it up to parents and you say, we're going to do a parents meeting, put it on the schedule 2 months in advance, you promote it and you get parents to show up. Not everybody's going to show up, but the ones that do show up, those are the ones that have a vested interest in your success. They need to be asked to help. You're missing the boat again if you don't do that. The other thing is, are we making it fun for parents, not just leaders, but parents? If we're not including parents in the fun of the program, that's a thing that you could do that doesn't really cost you any time and energy, that will change things. They'll change how people think about your program. So at this point, I'll stop, because I think this is a great way for our commissioners, especially that see a number of units, to talk about things that they've seen units do that were like, oh, wow, they're really getting the parents involved. So let's talk about that for a second. I'm going to stop share and ask you guys directly. Have you seen anything that's inspired you and made you think, wow, this is a unit that is getting people involved?
I'll mention one, Marcus. What I've noticed is when the unit leader, well, often it's a pack, but I've seen it at troop level too, is spending a lot of time talking to the parents at the meeting, or the den leader's doing some things, the unit leader doesn't have to, it's not at the moment in front of the group. He or she's talking to the parents that are there, and I could see that it wasn't the first time. There was conversation, and they had been they're picking up on things they talked about before. So it wasn't the unit leader was in charge. It was definitely asking for input, getting feedback. And when I see that, that's usually a hint to me that the unit is healthy, because the unit leader is hearing from the parents. And I've always thought that if scouting is reinforced at home, or at least not discouraged at home, the scout will be more likely to want to stay and want to participate.
Absolutely. The more engaged a parent is, the longer a youth will stay in the program. So we're talking about something that has multiple benefits. There's for sure, there's retention benefit in this. Any other things that you guys have seen? I'll give you an idea of what I'm looking for. So I had a den meeting last week where we've been doing a lot of heavy advancement stuff, because I got girls that are Lions all the way up to girls that are Arrow of Light. And it's, juggling a lot of requirements for that group to make sure they're all on their glide path to get to their rank advancement for the end of the year. And so I wanted to just do something that was fun on Thursday night. And I said, okay, well, let's went online, Googled some ideas, and I found armpit fudge. Has anybody seen armpit fudge done? So I could have done armpit fudge, like measure everything out and do it. But what I said was, okay, parents, and particularly parents that are new, okay, I need your help tonight. And I gave them small tasks, and I'll talk about this more in a second, but hey, if this is the group, I'd say, Becky, can you do me a favor? Can you set up the confectioner sugar and get that ready? Here's all the things you need for that. And then I'd say, John Bertodi, can you take care of the cocoa powder? And then Dave Trout, would you be willing to take care, open up the butter, get it softened? And then Lisa Burdette, if you could take care of the cream cheese. That's awesome. All those parents, I walked away. Those parents came together and started doing that stuff because anybody would say yes to that. Sure, I'll be glad to help you with that. And then they started talking to each other, armpit fudge, and and it became fun for them. It's not rocket science. I didn't have to do anything crazy. But then all those parents who would have been sitting there on their phone were talking to each other. What grade is your daughter in? Oh my gosh, she has the most beautiful eyes. I'm just sitting there listening to this stuff. It's not difficult. This is the type of thing that you need to do to just get them engaged. And once they're engaged and doing things, then they're having fun with their kid because, and I did it up. I took the basic recipe, but I added things in there like choose whichever armpit is stinkiest and mash it, in the bag. And the parents were like, hold on, let me check your armpits, and smelling both of the kids' armpits. Oh no, I think you need to use this one. So, it's that kind of thing where, especially at the Cub Scout level, where the kids are getting involved. Anybody else want to share things that they've seen where it was clear that it was a program for the family, not just a program where one leader's running it for the kids? Whether it's at Scouts BSA, Cub Scouts, venturing, anywhere on the board that you've seen that you thought, wow, okay, this is a program for the family.
So I think another important thing when you talk with the parents is learning their personalities, learning the parents that you can assign tasks to. Bring something XYZ to the meeting, we're going to use it, versus someone who isn't good under pressure, isn't good having those responsibilities, and finding something else for them to do to keep them involved as well.
Exactly. Can you give me an example of something that might be like low-hanging fruit to ask somebody to do that maybe not comfortable getting up in front of people?
Maybe bring in the drinks for the snacks for the meeting, something that isn't the end of the world if you don't have it, or you have like a hidden stash just in case, but something that gets them to where they feel like they have a place and a part as well.
Absolutely. All right. Any others, maybe at like a Scouts BSA level, where parents are active and engaged?
Get drivers for an outing.
Drivers for an outing. Absolutely.
They're always looking for.
Yep. Any others?
I got people that help with our winter hikes.
Perfect,
The
John.
registered committee people, they come and help us out, stay overnight with the kids,
Yeah.
with boys. So when they go to different things, they'll be at the Klondike Derby. It'll be different people who got active to be able to do those winter things with those boys.
Yep. Others? Any others?
So on a local, oh, go ahead.
But
I was going to say meal planning for campouts and overnights, just getting input from the parents on what their kids are likely to eat, or can they volunteer to bring a certain ingredient?
yeah, very good. Dave.
Right. And I think what we're all saying here is identifying individuals' interests and strengths, and their interests, right? So if you just start asking general questions, whether it's on the council district or even unit level, it's amazing what you hear. So like, you go to these troops and it's like, well, what do you do for a living? Well, I'm a physician. Oh my gosh, you can lead a first aid training. Good.
Yes.
Or I'm a hunter. Okay. Well, what does that mean? I love to camp and I'm good at cold weather camping. Okay, you can lead that sort of thing. So you don't overwhelm them, but you get to their sweet spot and area of strength and interest.
Exactly. Exactly right. Yeah, it all starts, and I think Lisa hit the nail on the head. It all starts with just talking to them and getting to know them and what they're, again, asking the question, what is it about, this program that resonates with you? And ask them open-ended questions to get them talking. They will tell you, they will give you the information that helps you understand how to plug them in. You show me a really good quality scout leader. I don't care what the program is, and I will show you somebody that understands delegation. That's just how it has to work if we're going to be sustainable. So, yeah.
Marcus, something that's really helpful too is to get parents around the campfire, the camp out.
Oh yeah.
It's just such a quality time. The kids are doing their own thing, just having loads of fun. But it's just an opportunity to really get to know deeply the folks that are around that campfire. And it's one of those bonding moments that kind of takes it beyond just program,
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And this is another thing. Like, I think it's okay for us to acknowledge here that we're like a divided society right now. People are just running away from each other. And I like to believe and have seen scouting be the opposite of that, where it's like, hey, this is the one place a week where like I can recognize that, my Republican friends and my Democrat friends have a whole lot more in common than separates them. And, we don't really talk about politics when we come together and sit around a campfire. We're just talking about, what a great time our kids are having. So this can be one of those things that unites people and should be. So please, please, please do not create an environment where you have a clique of leaders. It should be open to everybody. The only filter of whether or not somebody should be a leader within the Boy Scouts of America is their willingness to go through our background checks and follow our youth protection policies and, their ability to serve. And that's really what it is. John, you're on mute, buddy. Let me take you off of mute. I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay. Sometimes you have somebody who is really a recalcitrant. They are very difficult to get involved. And this is primarily at the Cub Scout level. I found that if you can find a task for them that is finite, they see it's going to end. If you're going to do a Pinewood Derby and they're going to stand at the end of the track and they're going to tell you who wins, then once the last car goes down, it's over.
Yeah.
They have no expectation of being asked again. But then again, next time you can say, you know what, you really did a nice job with that. I appreciate the way you talk to the youngsters, even the losers.
Yep.
And there's a skill there, I think. Would you like to do, it's not what you agreed to, would you like to do this on this next activity? And you find that you can get them in stages and stages and stages. Another thing, and this more pertains to units that are doing okay than those in crisis, you need to set up a system before there's a crisis.
Right.
You need to encourage the leaders to find not just one, but 2 or 3 people that are willing to step in and help them at that job whenever the need exists. And particularly when it's coming, somebody's going to be moving. Yeah. You're coming to, I have 8 moving up now. Oh my God. Before you get to that situation, you pull these other people in, and then the question is, what can you do to help us, or what could you do? And I like to do that as a group. And because chances are they're not all going to say no. Yeah. And if most of them do, somebody's going to step forward and still keep in that. So it's not like they're a designated assistant,
right,
or a titled, but they're going to help that particular leader in those circumstances. And once you get that set up, I mean, you know, you can step back almost.
Yeah,
and
the
just
next
watch
part's much easier.
watch it happen.
That's right. Thanks for sharing, John. I said, saw Teresa Monahan had something to share too. Teresa, do you want to share what you were going to say about planning? I don't know if you're on mute there. I don't know if you're trying to respond or if you stepped away maybe for a second, but Teresa said she has seen it work for cruise and ships, especially where if you engage the parents in planning, that it's way easier to get them to step up and help in some material way. So, okay. Thank you for that intermission. I think it's important maybe to put some context to it. So let's get back to the content and keep rolling. We all talked about ways that parents will get engaged. I think it's really important for us to understand the value of the sincere thank you. When a volunteer does do anything, and I mean anything. If you give somebody, my favorite example is as a den leader, if you don't have people engaged, you bring a tray, an empty tray to the meeting, and you go up to one of those parents that's sitting in the back of the room and you hand it to them and say, can you do me a huge favor? Next week, we're going to be doing X, Y, Z, and the kids are going to be burning a lot of energy. Would you do me a favor and could you possibly bring some orange slices or some some Capri Suns? And you will find most often the answer is yes. And when that certainly set them up for success. Put a note in your calendar to call that person the day before and say, hey, just wanted to touch base and make sure you're still good for the Capri Suns and the orange slices. But when they bring that tray back the next week, you want to make them feel like $1 million. We want to thank Miss Bednarowski for bringing the Capri Suns and making sure that you guys don't run out of energy. Let's all give her a round of applause. Yay, thank you. Now I have just ensured that the next time I ask Sarah Bednarowski for help with something, she's going to think about how good she felt with that engagement. Here's another thing that I don't see enough, and that is, you see these little pins. This is a next to nothing cost item, but if you are not at the end of your program year standing up and recognizing your den leaders and having all the parents who have sat in all those meetings and engaged at whatever level they are, watching this person prepare for that den meeting each week, or watching the assistant scoutmaster who's in charge of advancement and spends all that time with their kids. If you're not standing up and having them come up and be thanked and giving them some physical, tangible recognition for what they're doing, oh my gosh, you're missing the boat. It is the best money you'll ever spend, because everybody that's doing this is doing it because they want to do it. But the thank you is worth its weight in gold. The sincere recognition is worth its weight in gold. And if you're not doing that, I would say stop everything. That's the one takeaway I want you to get from this call, is you have to express gratitude for them taking their time and energy to make this program happen. It's the only compensation they're really getting. And it's important not to deny them that. Again, we heard several examples just a couple of minutes ago. Make that first ask for help really small. Make it a small engagement, and then make them feel like $1 million for having done it. As a leader, when you are a leader, and we don't hit this enough in our online training, certainly. By the way, if your leaders have an opportunity to choose
If they come on a Zoom, can I get back
and
to you?
in-person training, please have them go to in-person training. The experience is going to be much more valuable to them. And
Terrific. Come on in.
better leaders as a result. So please understand, we need to hit this harder. Delegation is the rule, not the exception. If you are doing this all yourself, especially if you're Gen X like me, though you are doing a good job in helping the program happen, over time, you're making our program weaker, and there's a strategic weakness that you're creating. So you've got to stop doing everything yourself, and you have to force yourself to ask for help. You've got to delegate. All right. So one of the cool things about the design of the Lion and Tiger Adult Partner Program is that if you're following the book that those parents are reading, it states clearly that the den leader of the Lion and Tiger dens are facilitators. They are not necessarily the people that are doing everything themselves. So what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to ask the Lion and Tiger parents to take responsibility for a meeting, can you cover the Tiger Bites meeting for me? I'll provide you all the information, the material support, but I promise you, your son or your daughter will love seeing you stand up and lead that exercise for them. And it's small, man. If you haven't looked at the Lion, especially the Lion Adventures, it's something that anybody could do. You will have people that say, oh, I'm just not comfortable doing that. And we're not going to force them. We're not going to, push their arm up on their back and say, no, you have to do this or else you're out. But you need to ask everybody to do it. And if you do, then their first experience in scouting is going to be one of engaging in leading program. And I've seen packs that really take advantage of this, and it goes just right out of the gates with new families to create a culture of engagement. I have also seen, conversely, packs that don't do this, and they don't get parents engaged in it, and that leads to a culture of disengagement. So if you're a pack or if you're a scout troop and you see your pack doing this, pull them aside, say, hey, is this something I can help you with, getting your parents at the Lion and Tiger level set up? Because those parents in those rooms, many times 6, 7 years from now, 8 years from now, they're going to be the people who you can't get to be volunteers in your troop. So highly encourage that. All right. So now we're going to talk about strategy, okay? Direct recruitment, how to actually facilitate and construct an ask. And one of the things that I like to show people is this PDCA, plan, do, check, act cycle. Don't just wing it. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. So come up with a plan, sit down and think about all your parents and what is the right way to approach, to approach each individual one. Somebody said a couple of minutes ago about the personalities of those people. Come up with a plan of what you would ideally like to see that person do ahead of time. Then you kind of, you go through your first, what was it Mike Tyson said, any plan doesn't survive a punch in the face, or I guess your plan of attack doesn't survive first engagement with the enemy is a military thing. But, you're going to have to take your plan and put it to the test, and it's going to change because the person that you had as the perfect person to be picked to take over as den leader for you, or whatever position you want to go, your advancement chair or your next treasurer, that person's gonna, when you respond, they're gonna respond and say, I hate to tell you this, but my wife just accepted a job in Tucson and we're not gonna be here, after 6 weeks from now. And you have to be flexible. You have to just accept that not everything's gonna go to plan. But your plan's got to be flexible. And as you go through that, you check, you say, okay, how is my plan holding up to engagement with our leaders? And you rejigger the plan. And then, ideally, more has happened according to the plan than hasn't, and you adjust. So then you create kind of a new version of the plan. But I think just doing that is being intentional about it and thinking through, I want this person to do this, I want that person to do that, and making those asks is 95% of what we're not doing. I really think that changes the whole game right there. Having a strategy, being intentional about parent engagement is really the thing that I think we're not doing. And the thing that if you start doing, you're going to start seeing immediate results. So we'll talk about first units that are doing okay. They don't need immediate intervention, but you as a commissioner or you as one of the leaders in those units think, I want this program. The program exists for my kid today because the people that were here all the way up to, 1924 to today, pass that torch down, and I don't want it to end on my watch. I want to make sure that I hand it over, leave the campsite cleaner than I found it, as it were. Whatever analogy you want to use, you want to make sure that you're going from good to great. So we'll talk about that first. Units, every unit has strategic holes that need to be filled, whether it's a treasurer or we have a new scoutmaster that agreed to do it, but they don't have a ton of confidence. So we need to probably pull in maybe 1 or 2 assistant scoutmasters that take specific things off of their plate so that they can have success, feel success, build success and confidence, and lead the unit to what they need to accomplish. Youth run program. Whatever those strategic goals are, every single unit has them. And again, going back to small asks, this is the culture of engagement piece. If you ask people to do small things, if you need somebody to be for a Cub Scout pack, having a camping chair for a Cub Scout pack, they're going to be the person that goes and gets Baloo trained to make sure they check that box. And they're going to organize that camping trip. And that's the only thing the pack asks them to do in the year. That's a great thing. That's a good to great strategy. We're not going to ask them, hey, will you be the camping chair? We'll say, hey, our first talk with them about it is, you seem to be a really outdoor family. You guys, I've seen your pictures on Facebook. You go down to Hilton Head and camp on the beach. That's something that we would love to do a little bit more of. Is that something you could help us with? Maybe, help us in making sure our program has an outdoor element. That's an ask. That's a small ask that leads to a bigger ask. So this is nothing new under the sun. This is the strategy that has worked forever for Scout units. There are 3 phases: identify, select, and recruit. So going back to our intentionality, look at your parent list of parents that are not currently involved. And kind of make some notes next to them. This person's an outdoor family. This person's a CPA. This person is a physician. This person is a social worker. The results of your conversations with these families. So identify their strengths. Then compare that to your list of strategic goals and think, okay, well, the physician would be a good person to be engaged with this. The CPA would be a great person to help. We don't have to ask them to be the treasurer. We have a really good treasurer, but maybe asking them to be assistant treasurer and to be involved with that. That asking them to help somebody that's already doing a job is worth its weight in gold. It's that's a really good way to get somebody involved. If you're not asking them to take the title and the responsibility, you're asking them to help somebody that's already agreed to do that. If you're not doing it, absolutely do it. Also, this is something that the people that are already giving the time and energy to help the program, they're registered leaders, include them in this process. I think generationally, we don't like to sit around and talk about people because it's considered bad form, and I appreciate that. But it's okay when you're talking about the planning ahead for the success of your unit to sit in a closed room and acknowledge, hey, for us to be able to do this properly, I think we need to acknowledge we might have to have some conversations that are frank. Let's keep that conversation inside this room, and that's really important. And be able to talk about strengths and maybe even weaknesses of some of the parents or the prospects that we have identified. And you go through that, and then you select the people who you want to ask. And it's okay to say, well, I want to ask John Peapack first. Here are the 3 reasons why I think he would be the right person. But then, we got to plan for the fact that John might say no. And then Monica Rebar is absolutely my number 2. Here are the 3 reasons. So come up with that ABC list of what you're going to ask people to consider doing and what you're going to build up to ask them doing. That's the selection process. Once you've done those 2 things, it's just about engaging with them and talking with them. Don't come right out and say, I need to meet with you. I want to ask you to do something. Have a conversation with them, talk to them. And this is the key thing that I want you to understand when you're recruiting a volunteer. And we like to joke, we talk about the 1 hour a week thing. If I could put a bullet in the 1 hour a week thing's head, I would. Because it minimizes the importance of being a leader. It minimizes you know, it reduces it to a joke. And I think, you know, the right way to do it, when you build up and you've asked somebody to do a number of things, they've done it successfully, you've thanked them, praised them, recognized them publicly, and you're now at the point where you're going to sit down across from them and say, look, we really need your help. And you look them in the eye and say, here's why I really think you'd be the right person to do this. You're taking it seriously. If you're taking it seriously, they'll take it seriously. If you say, hey, look, I need you to do this, it's only 1 hour a week, that's a different ask. And it's one that doesn't reflect the importance of their engagement in helping their kids and helping our kids to do this. So don't go for the cheap ask. Don't apologize for asking either. Never, ever, ever, ever apologize for asking someone for their help. You respect them, that's why you're asking them. So respect what you're asking them to do too. Say, hey, you know, one of the things that we want to see is our kids. We have a lot of kids in our troop, for example, that are struggling in that path from scout to first class. And I think one of the reasons is, you know, we've been struggling because our advancement chair, you know, Joe left 6 months ago and we haven't filled that position. And we want to help our kids be successful. You're an Eagle Scout. And one of the things that I think you want to see is your son or your daughter achieve the same success that you have. And, you know, in helping them, you would also be in a position to help all the other kids that we're serving. So is that something you'd consider doing for us? We will work with you. We will even help recruit additional people to support that. But we really need your help with that. Is that something you'd consider doing? And then you shut up. You let them, you know, you let them answer the question. So it's not difficult, but it does take work and preparation and planning. Again, evaluation, prioritize, be respectful of people, whatever's said in that room, keep it in that room. And never talk negatively about the parents. You know, it's okay to say, well, you know, we wanted this other person because of X, Y, and Z, not, you know, we're not going to ask that person because, you know, they have these issues. Respect their privacy and appreciation, but just follow the Scout Oath and Scout Law. It's, you know, as simple as that. All right. So other things to consider in this good to great strategy for units that are already doing pretty well. It's okay for you to have that ABC and to flatter people. But again, I'll go back to do not create a clique. Diversity and leadership is a strength, not a weakness. So having that person who lives on the other side of the tracks as part of your leadership team is going to help you reflect to the families that live over there, hey, we want you to be a part of our program. Or having, you know, the leader that, you know, is from the other church. You know, we're a program, if we believe in scouting, we want it to benefit every kid possible. And don't create an environment that's a clique. Create an environment that shows and reflects in word and deed. This is a program that benefits everybody. We truly want to be that place where we're unlike everything else that happens in society with all this division. When you do build up to that highly personal ask, where you're going to actually ask somebody to take on a title and a set of responsibilities, a couple of things that you need to be prepared to do. Don't just wing it. First, do not do it over text. Do not do it over email. Preferably even, don't even do it over the phone. Treat it with respect and ask them, hey, let's go out and grab a cup of coffee. Or, you know, at that meeting, when they're, you know, we're wrapping up, pull that person aside and say, hey, are you okay hanging out for 5 minutes? I have something really important I want to talk to you about. Do it in person. You will get better results, and they will treat it with the respect that you did as well. Also, don't ask them if you don't have a list of what you're asking them to do readily available right there, because that's going to be their first question. And when you say, yes, actually, I've got it right here for you. It shows that you were prepared and followed the Scout Oath and Scout Law. It shows that you take it seriously and you're actually answering their questions. And I will tell you, as somebody who has avoided saying yes to things in the past, because you get, as parents, you get asked to do things. The easiest off ramp is if you say, well, what do you need me to do? and they start backpedaling and saying, well, it's really not that difficult. And, I know I've got an off ramp if I want. Well, yeah, I'll have to think about it, because they didn't press their advantage at the time they asked. But it's way harder if somebody says, yeah, actually, here's the list of things that we want you to consider doing. Now, because I'm the one that asked that question, I have to sit down and actually look at it. And when I sit down and look at it, I either determine I have the time to do this, and I believe in what they're asking me to do in the program that it's in support and service of, or I don't have the time and energy, or I don't believe in that. So now I'm actually in the space where I'm considering it, and I'm in person, which is harder than considering it from the privacy of my own home, or hiding behind my computer screen or my phone screen. That's why you want to make that ask in person. And then when somebody says yes, and we all get so excited when somebody says yes. Oh my gosh, I recruited a new committee chair. Oh my gosh, I recruited a new den leader or an assistant den leader. Far too often when we do that, we're excited and then we stop the process and we don't support their success through frequent communication. This is the stuff that the old timers were so good at. Once somebody said yes, they knew they had fish on, and they said, great, we've got training coming up in 3 weeks. And you can take it online, but if you'll go in person, I'll go with you. I'll sit through that training experience with you. And if you do that, I'm telling you, you have just recruited somebody that will be a volunteer leader for the foreseeable future. Invest in their investment. They're investing, double down with them, invest with them. Support their success. Ask them, hey, here's my calendar. Share your calendar with them. Let's meet every 3 weeks for a half hour just to go over what's going on. And, you're going to have questions. I'll have answers. Let's budget the time now to go ahead and do that. Not just we'll catch up at committee meetings. Let them know, we won't let you fail. We will not let you fail. We'll make sure you're successful. And set the expectation for new parents right out of the gates by not allowing them to sit in the back of the room. So if you tell parents, hey, this program works on the recruitment night, this program works because you see all these people with these tan shirts and green pants. They were in your seat last year and they stepped up because they know it's worth their time and energy to help kids in this program. So there are a lot of ways to engage. We have a parent resource survey. We do expect you to fill that out and turn it back in so that we can understand where your strengths and knowledge and experience line up with what our needs are. And but however you want to engage, we want to have you engaged. Yeah, Lou.
One of the things that I've expressed to the troops that I'm commissioned for is that I've done a lot of the things you're asking new people to do. Use me as a resource to help them succeed.
Yep.
And that's one of the main things as commissioner we need to do.
Yep, absolutely. You are, and that's the thing, the strength of my generation. They've done it all. So they can speak from having done it and say, here's how I handled it. And that just shows, hey, I'm investing. I'm not asking you to do something I haven't done myself. So, all right. We want to make sure we end on time. So I'm going to keep on rolling. But if you have questions, please do what Lou just did. Raise your hand, throw it in the chat, and we'll keep on rolling. All right. So now we're going to switch gears. Now we have a unit that needs intervention. They're down to 3 active people that are actually doing everything. And really it's one that's pulling most of the weight. This is a unit that's going to not re-charter in a year or 2 unless there is intervention. And whether they understand that fact or not, and many times they don't, or they don't acknowledge it to themselves. As a commissioner, you see it, you know what's going to happen. And we talk about it in the commissioner meeting. Gosh, I just don't know what to do to help these folks. This is what you can do to help these folks in that unit. And if you find yourself on this call or watching this call, through the links after the fact, I want you to understand you do not have to do this yourself. There are resources available to help you take what we're about to talk about, and we will actually come with you and do this with you That's how much we want your unit to succeed, whether it's me personally as a Scout executive, or it's Sarah Bednarowski as the council commissioner, or your district executive, or your district commissioner, and your unit commissioner. We will go all in to help your unit pursue this method and make sure it's successful. Okay, so with that offer of support out of the way, let's talk about what this is. This is something that should not be used when you have engagement. This is something that I would not encourage you to use unless it's necessary. But if you don't have any engagement from parents currently, and the only way to get towards a path of culture of engagement is to do something drastic, that's what this is for, okay? I will also tell you, this is not for you to do halfway. It will fail and you will get worse results than if you didn't do this. So it's not for the faint of heart. You have to go all the way if you're going to kind of take this method seriously. And then the last thing is, again, do not try and do it alone. I have done this on a number of occasions and I've not seen it fail. I have seen it work universally when done right. So ask me, ask your district executive, ask Sarah if you're a commissioner to help you make sure this happens. If you're a unit leader, ask your unit commissioner, ask the district commissioner, ask me, DEs. We will all help to make this happen. Okay, so first and foremost, it starts with a mandatory parents meeting for all the parents engaged. It's important that you say it's a mandatory parents meeting. If you don't say it's a mandatory parents meeting, you will get a third of your parents actually showing up. Tell them, hey, it's really important that at least one parent is there. And to make sure that it's going to be successful, we have, babysitting and program available for your kids in a separate part of the area with 2 Deep leadership, of course. Make sure you're following your policies and procedures and we're not violating 2 Deep leadership. But offer that to make sure that your parents actually show up. You want to tell them ahead of time that the meeting's really important. Every Scout should have at least one parent or guardian there. And then, again, we talked about the weakness of an email. If you're going to communicate it via email, then pick up the phone and call these people and say, hey, just wanted to make sure you got the email about the mandatory parents meeting. It's really important. We will not make it a long meeting, but it's the kind of thing that's not best dealt with over email. So would it be possible for somebody to attend? Oh, well, I got a babysitter, right? I don't have any, but that's okay. We've got a program for the kids in the other room, so we should be good to go. You want to ensure that people are attending. All right. I'm going to talk about psychology here. And I'm really serious when I say do it all the way. That means do all the things I'm telling you about, because if you don't, it will not have the same effect. You should have this meeting in as small a room as the number of parents you're going to have will allow. You want it to be almost uncomfortably crowded room. And the chairs should be stacked up. You want it to be in a room, if possible, without windows. It is psychology, and it'll become clear in a couple of seconds why I'm telling you to do this. All right, there's a little bit of prep work you need to do before the meeting. You need to sit down and list all of the jobs that in a perfect world you would have parents take. All right, sit down with the 2 or 3 people that are still engaged and make a list of all the jobs. All right, and start with the ones that are most important. We need, we need a new committee chair. We need den leader for the Wolves. We need an advancement chair for the troop here. We need somebody that's going to take over the popcorn sale because that family moved. What else? All of those things, list them. But don't just list those ones that you have to have. List, if you've got 18 kids and they're all coming and participating to some degree and their parents are not engaged, then you need 18 jobs. And some of those are not going to be registered leader required jobs. Some of them are going to be really like, hey, this would be great if we could get somebody to do this. Or even, we don't really need somebody to do this, but it's important that we ask everybody to do something or else this doesn't work. List it. right? And then you're going to rank those from most important to get filled to least important to get filled. And you're not going to put them on there like, we don't really need it. Don't put it on the card. You just put them in that order, okay? On the back of the card, you're going to have basic bullets of this is what the job entails. Because again, we're asking people to do something. We want to tell them what it is specifically we want them to do. That's what you have to do ahead of time. So you have a stack of 3x5 cards. If it's 18 parents you're expecting, there's 18 cards in your pocket from most important to least important. And it's a good idea to have a Confederate in the audience. So if you know, magic terminology, somebody who, let me get a volunteer, and that person that comes up and you're like, that's not a volunteer, you know, that's your Confederate in the audience, the person that you've prepared to be in the audience. If you feel like it's necessary, it will help ensure the success of this strategy. All right. So the 18th family parent shows up, you close the door behind them. All right. And then everybody's got a seat, and you and the other leader or the other person that's doing this, or if it's the commissioner that's there helping, if it's me that's there helping, one of us is going to go up in the front and say, thank you guys for taking the time. I realize we didn't really give you much of an option, that this is a mandatory parents meeting, but nonetheless, I greatly appreciate the fact that we have everybody here. As you guys are aware, engagement in this program is what makes it happen. It's a volunteer-based program, and I, like you, want to see this program succeed. Now, while I'm doing this, I've taken the 18 cards out of my pocket and I've handed it to the other person. And that person is taking those cards and taping them all on the wall. And they're taping, it doesn't matter what order they're coming in. That part's already done, because if we had 16 families show up instead of 18, I just take the 2 least important cards and I stick them in my other pocket. And now there's the exact number of parents and the exact number of jobs we need them to do. And we've ensured that the ones that are most important are the ones that didn't get taken out, right? So now Sarah is putting this stuff up on the wall while I'm thanking them and then telling them, look, this program really only happens when all of us, many hands make light work, all of us have to step up. So, and then you make them choose a way to engage. You basically end the possibility for them to continue operating in the program without doing something to help. So this is why it's hard, and you have to, it's not for the faint-hearted. You have to be willing to say, guys, we're at the point where we need everybody to step up and do something in order for the continuation of the program that we all care about and we want kids to succeed. So at this time, Sarah's put all these things up on this wall. Some of these jobs are bigger than others. Some of them require you to be a registered leader. Some of them don't. But there's a level of engagement for everybody here. And at this time, I need everybody to kind of step up and decide how they're going to help advance the program. And you have to make an uncomfortable pause. You have to let that quietness seep in and let it sit there and be uncomfortable for a second. And what will happen is they will feel uncomfortable, like you feel uncomfortable. And you play the he who speaks first loses game. And you have to be comfortable not being the person that speaks first. So what will happen invariably when you do this is one person will step up and stand up and walk up to the wall where all the cards are. And that person, as they're walking up, all those parents that are still in their seat have the same thought at the exact same time. You got it. Thank you, Sarah. If I'm the last person in my seat, I will have the biggest job on them. And after that one person breaks the ice, every person stands up and walks up and goes up to the wall and they start horse trading. That's all it takes to break that idea that I'm not going to be engaged with this program. I'm going to let others do it. But I will tell you, if you're going to lose the he who speaks first loses game, don't be the person that does this. Let the person that's there to help you do that part for you. Okay. Now, couple of things that are important to understand about this method. You have to, your job's not done that night once people say, I will help and be your advancement chair. I will help and, take over running the Pinewood Derby. I will help with the blue and gold. Whatever those jobs are, it doesn't end there. You now have to actually lead. You have to support them, those things that we talked about before. And you have to understand that some of those people that said they'll do something will not work. They will not work out. You need to plan for that. Those jobs 6 months from now might not all be the same. All you've really done is you've ended the expectation that they have, reasonable expectation they have, that they can just drop their kids off and that they don't have to do anything. Okay. All right, Lou, I've made you wait long enough. What's your question?
You've talked about these jobs and you kind of put the whole thing in terms of, I need them now. Question I got is it viable or recommended to say, okay, the Scoutmaster or the Cub Master will say, is retiring next year. His kids go up. That's a job. I need somebody there to be learning to be their replacement. And that's the main task they have.
Right.
As it goes through different things like that. Like when I started at Westinghouse, it was 50 years ago today, actually. One of the things one of my mentors told me right off the bat was, make your boss look good and train your replacement.
Yep. Yep. So succession planning is absolutely part of the whole units that are good to great. And I think those ones that are really doing well already have that. They already have some understanding of, because that's how they were probably recruited. But with this one-stop shop method, I would say you're going to continue on or you're not. If you are, have that conversation with the person that agrees to be assistant Scoutmaster or assistant Cub Master after this engagement happens. So you can have that conversation about, the good news is I really don't need a ton of engagement. We've got some time for you to kind of learn on the job, if that answers your question. Go ahead, Lisa.
Hey, and I've seen it in our unit and in other units that are kind of in our area. You have parents that will agree to do whatever the task is, but then ghost you. They don't come to the meetings, or they come and they don't fulfill their tasks. They don't answer emails, phone calls, text messages, any form of communication short of showing up at their house. How do you deal with those types of situations? Because that's what we face a lot. Everybody's willing to jump in head first, be all in until it's time to actually do it.
Yeah. So it's a great point and one not to be overlooked. We do have people that will say they will do things and then not do things. And the short answer is, treat them with respect, because, it's easy to get mad at them and say, oh, this person ghosted us. But at the end of the day, you don't know what's going on in their life. They may have not wanted to do something. No promises that this is going to solve all your problems. What it will do, like I said, to reiterate, is it will end the fact that people have expectation that, the parents don't really have to do anything. So if you do this, you will end up with a large percentage of those roles filled with changes down the road. So if you got somebody that's in a position that ghosts you, I would say, do your best to communicate with those people over a short period of time. But again, don't wait. Communicate immediately with them. Hey, you agreed to help with X, Y, and Z. Find out they're not going to respond to you early. Not like the week before the blue and gold when they agreed to do it. So communicate with them early about what they've agreed to do. And again, support their efforts with, hey, we've got a training coming up, those kind of things. It'll become apparent really quickly because they will stop communicating immediately. And then, you got some more work to do. But you, the three people that were doing everything, will have more time because you're not doing everything anymore. You've gotten, 4 or 5 or 7 other people who are now stepping up, and you can give them functional things off of your plate and delegate those things. So it's a position that puts you in a better spot. Okay. All right. A couple other things, because I do want to end on time, that I want to hit. So first, make it fun for the adults. If you're not doing anything that is just adults, I would encourage you to consider doing that. I've seen packs and troops have parents only engagements. And, you know, sometimes they can even be, hey, we're going to go out to a restaurant and, you know, people want to have adult beverages or things like that. There are no kids there. They can do that. You're building the relationship of that team. It's not an official scout activity, but it's engaging and building relationships with those people. But you should feel free to do that and make sure that they feel like they're part of the fun. Other things with that one-stop shop method, if you don't want somebody, if you have a person in mind for something ahead of time, don't subject them to that one-stop shop method. If you're going to ask them to be the den leader for something, pull them aside ahead of time before the meeting and say, you know, use the other direct approach with them personally. And then if they say yes, then you can say, great, we're going to do this strategy because we're going to try and get everybody engaged. At that time, when we do this, can you be in the room and can you walk up? They're a Confederate now in your audience. Can you walk up and take the den leader card just to show, hey, I'm willing to step up. So that way you don't end up with the wrong person in one of those critical roles. Other things that I want to share with you, you know, again, it is, I love being a volunteer with this organization because I get out of it way more than I put into it. And I think that's the case for everybody that's taken their, you know, their time here on a Sunday to sit through this engagement, but don't do it alone. Don't do it alone. Talk about this. If you're a commissioner and you're uncomfortable doing this and you want somebody to go with you to help you have this conversation, this engagement with the units, talk to your district executive, talk to me, talk to Sarah, you know, talk to your council commissioner. So that's really, really important. None of this stuff is rocket science. None of this content is my specific stuff that I came up with on my own. It's all stuff that people have been doing for generations that are tried and tested and proven. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to end in just a couple of seconds. I wanted to have questions and answers, but we're out of time, and I promised you we would stop on time. So what we'll do is we will take this slideshow, the slide deck. We will put it on the council website within the next 24 hours. We'll put it on Facebook. So it's available. Please share it with others, and let's get this content out and make sure that it has the best possible impact for our units that need help. Thank you again to Sarah for taking the time to be here with me and help. Thank you for each and every one of you for taking their time. If you have questions, you can reach out to me personally. Sarah, can you type my email in the chat? It's marcus.ragland@scouting.org. I'll be happy to answer any questions through that method that any of you have. And again, thank you for everything you're doing to help make this program great for our scouts. All right, Sarah's going to
thank you for doing this, Marcus.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's important. And we are, believe it or not, better than a lot of other councils with volunteer engagement. But we have units that really need intervention, and those are the ones that I want to make sure get that method about, you know, that one-stop shop. All right, again, thank you everybody for your time and engagement. Marcus.ragland@scouting.org if you have questions, and please have a wonderful rest of your Saturday or your Sunday and weekend. Okay, bye everybody.
Bye all.
Bye, everybody. Thanks, Marcus.
Thank you.